Now, directing your attention to a couple months later in now October of 2001, did there come a time when you saw Mosley again? Couple months later, yes. Okay, after you committed this murder of Eric Smith, what did you do? Did you go back to stay at that house in Queens? No. Why not? Because the murder was committed already, and I'm just waiting for him to call us to do the when they find the other person. Okay, so did you ever look for the other individual, Troy? No. But to clarify, when you were looking for, before you saw Eric Smith on the day of the murder, were you looking for both of the victims? At the time, I didn't know who we was looking for. And you didn't know what Troy looked like? Right. Did you make any of the decisions here in terms of who to look for? Well, in the beginning, we stayed at the house. They only showed us a picture of Eric Smith. That's it. They never showed us a picture of Troy, and they never mentioned Troy's name in the beginning. They just mentioned E-Moneybags. Okay, and did there come a time when you were called upon for the Troy murder? Is that right? Yes. And how did that happen? I was standing on the corner one day and Tripp came up to me and he told me, "Yo, come on, we got to go put in some work." When you say put in some work, what does that mean? Murder somebody. Okay, so what happened? So I started walking with him and he took me to a car, and when we got to the car, it was two people in the car. Who were those two people? eBay and Mosley. Do you remember what kind of car it was? A PT Cruiser. And what happened once you saw Mosley? I got in the car. Okay, did you know who eBay was? No. Had you ever seen him before? No. Did you know what you were doing at that point? Where you were going? Yes. Where to? To Queens. Okay, and where did you go? Before you went to Queens, did you go anywhere? We went to 149th Street between 8th and 7th Avenue. Okay, what happened there? Mosley got out the car. We was sitting double parked, me, eBay, and Tripp, and Mosley came back with a bag a few minutes later, got in the car, and we drove off to Queens. Where did you go once you got to Queens? Back to the front of the house where we were staying at when we did the Eric Smith murder. Okay, then what happened? We sat there for a little while, and then Mosley say he going to call Divine to find out what's going on, and when he called Divine, Divine say he was going to call him back. He called him back a little while later and told him where the guy was at that we needed to go murder. And where was that? By the Van Wyck Expressway. He was at a club. Is that in Queens? Yes. Do you remember what kind of club he was at? I believe it was a sports bar. What time of day was this? This was in the nighttime. Did you end up going to that location? Yes. And who all went at that time? Mosley was driving. eBay was in the passenger seat next to Mosley. I was sitting behind the driver, and Tripp was sitting behind eBay. And can you describe the area, what the location where you went to? It was real dark, but it was close to the highway. It was just a club on the corner. You said Mosley was driving. Can you tell us what happened once you got to the location? We got to the location. It was like deserted, just basically deserted, like everybody was in the club. So we parked on the right side of the street. The club is on the left-hand side, and we were just sitting there for a few minutes. Then the guy, Troy, he started coming out of the club. I didn't know who he was, but Mosley was like, "There he go, right there." And he was chatting with some girls walking. He was walking in the street. They was walking on the sidewalk, and he was walking over across the street towards our way. We were still sitting in the car. And did you see where he approached? He was going towards the Jeep. Do you remember what that Jeep looked like? I believe it was a Denali Jeep, a green Denali. Go ahead. What happened next? He hit the starter button, like the automatic start to start the Jeep up. The Jeep lit up, and at the same time, we was getting out the car to sneak around the Jeep to murder him. Do you remember who got out of the car first? eBay. Now, let me just back you up. At that time, did you have a gun? Yes. And who gave you the gun? eBay. And can you describe where you got the gun from? Were you in the car? When we was still in the car, he had a bag. He passed one gun to Tripp, and Tripp told him to give me the revolver to give him the automatic. So eBay gave me the revolver, and then he gave Tripp an automatic, and he took an automatic out. And do you remember what kind of automatic either of them had? 9mm. So you said eBay got out of the car first, is that right? Yes. Do you remember if you got out, were you behind the driver or were you behind the passenger? I was behind the driver. Behind Mosley? Yes. And what happened next? What did you see? eBay got out, then Tripp got out, then I went out behind Tripp. I was third. Mosley stayed in the car. Okay. And we went in that order, and we snuck around the Jeep, and the guy wasn't paying attention. He was arguing with the girls. And then eBay ran up on him and shot him, and then Tripp shot him, and then I shot him. Now, just to clarify, when you said you guys were you guys pulled up behind the car that you saw Troy go toward? No, we were maybe 2 cars behind him. Okay, so 2 cars behind? Yes. Is that right? And you were facing towards the club? Well, the club is on the left-hand side across the street. We was on the right-hand side facing directions right. Facing the club? Yes. And how far away were you from Troy in terms of where the car was that Mosley and you were in and eBay versus where Troy was when he came out towards his car? 3 car lengths. And when you saw eBay get out of the car, did he go towards the road or did he go towards the sidewalk? The sidewalk. And did you see where eBay shot Troy? The upper body. When he shot him, what happened to Troy? He fell. And then you said Tripp shot him? Yes. Do you remember how many times eBay shot him? No, I don't remember. Do you remember how many times Tripp shot him? No. And how many times did you shoot him? Maybe twice. Do you know where he shot him? Me? Yes. Oh, yeah, in his lower, stomach. And at that point, where was he in relation to the car? Maybe about 3 or 4 feet away from the driver's door. What happened after eBay shot and Tripp shot and you shot? We got back. Mosley was pulling out the parking spot. We got back in the car and then we drove to Brooklyn. Now, after you got into the car, did you and Tripp have any discussion? Yeah. About what? Tripp, he screamed at me. He said, "Why you shoot him? We already took care of that. We could have kept that gun." What was your response? I just brushed it off. Was there a reason why you did shoot him, though? Yes. What was that? To earn my money. And was there any reason why you thought you might not get paid? Yes. What was that? Because the last time when we killed Eric Smith, it was a discussion about killing TJ because he ain't pulled the trigger, so they was plotting on killing him. And were they? Or not paying him? Or not paying him? Yes. Okay, so Tripp yelled at you for that, is that right? Yes. Was there also a discussion about the guns? Well, they told me to give eBay back the gun. He put the guns back in the bags. We drove to Brooklyn. Did you know where you were in Brooklyn? No. Are you familiar with Brooklyn? No. And what happened once you got to Brooklyn? eBay got out the car and left, and then me, Tripp, and Mosley went back to Harlem. When eBay left, did he leave with anything? He left with the bag with the guns.